It's official, Americans are suffering under the worst board game drought in their nation's history. Innumerable board games remain trapped aboard freighters in Los Angeles harbor. Americans everywhere are feeling the effects of gaming malnutrition, often resorting to desperate measures to get the vitamins their board game diets would otherwise provide. Raul Jean reports now live from Los Angeles harbor, where apparently an unprecedented maneuver is being attempted. Captain Matt Lees, who isn't registered here, is apparently driving his ship full speed towards the back of the line.
Don't worry, crew, I've tried this maneuver many times and it's never gone wrong.
Do you know what I like? I like lots of things actually. I like furry animals with 4 legs. I like films from the 70s. I like castles. I like a lot of things, but you don't know that because you never ask, because you only think about yourself. If you didn't, then you'd also know that I like big ships. And what's not to like about big ships? Are they not fascinating things? Some of us get excited about skyscrapers, but many of these ships are comparable in size. As long as the Eiffel Tower is tall, they're self-propelled city blocks that surge their way through the world's seas. So naturally I'd be curious, nay excited about Panamax, a game all about moving cargo back and forth through the Panama Canal using some of the world's biggest ships. But it's not just about that. Panamax is also a game just about capitalism, about making money. You win if you are the richest player. Remember those games? The richest player, by the way, means not the richest company. No, your company can crash and burn, just as long as you have the most money in your pockets when you're running for the lifeboats. It's a game with quite a lot of moving parts, and that's in both senses of the phrase. Obviously, it's a game about moving ships and cargo through the Panama Canal, but it's also about playing the stock market. It's about currying favour with the different nations that you work for. And as I slide into my twilight years, it's increasingly this kind of game that I find myself intimidated by and less likely to play. I should have bounced off Panamax, and yet I didn't. I got really quite drawn in. Intriguing, huh? Why did that happen? Ooh. Well, I'm going to tell you. I mean, that's obviously that's why I'm here. That's why you're here. One of the things that did nearly put me off Panamax was this manual, which does something that really annoys me in manuals, as well as a couple of typos, which admittedly are not glaring. It has this habit of referring to other bits of itself, sometimes when it needs to and doesn't need to, rules that are or aren't completely explained, so you start pinballing around the pages like a pinball. And the side effect of that is it makes the game look more complicated than it actually is. And all these different elements fit together to form a rather nice whole. You can't learn that from that manual. So when you descend down into the thrumming engine room of Panamax, what are you going to find? You're going to find dice. So many dice. Dice laid down to just say what the current turn order is. Dice representing the cargo on your ship, saying exactly how much cargo there is. And most importantly, dice determining possible actions. Here, this is perhaps the most important part of the board. Ignore the actual canal. At the start of every round, you are going to roll an avalanche of these white dice, and according to the results you get, you're going to allocate those to different columns. The moment that's done, players are going to descend upon these like vultures, picking choice cuts from a fresh corpse, because some of these dice, some of these actions are going to let them load cargo onto their ships, or they're going to let them immediately start moving those ships along the Panama Canal, putting them into locks or along waterways. And I'm quite serious when I say choice cuts, because some dice are they're just juicier propositions than others. Look, you've got dice determining movement, you've got dice determining loading cargo. If you want to grab some cargo, take a die from this column. That allows you to take a cargo card with lots of lovely cargo on, and have 2 load options. You see, you can only ever take the die from the very bottom of the column you pick from. The further up the column you go, the more you get to do. If that's movement, you get to move further. If it's loading, you get to load more stuff. This is a contract with a whole bunch of stuff on it, but I can't actually load it all. So the thing to do, the thing to do is just wait for other people to take all the crap dice and then take the good ones for yourself. So it's easy, just do that. But of course that's what everybody's doing. The point is the fewer dice that remain, the more useful they become. So you're taking your contracts and you're loading cargo, that's good. And then whatever contract you have, you'll start on one side of the canal or the other because you have to get through to the other side because that just makes sense. But you can only get ships going when they have a certain amount of cargo on them. They can't be underloaded or overloaded because rules. And then even as you're going through the canal, as you're going through locks, there's only room for ships of up to 4 cargo slots in size because rules and also physics and space, so that's got to be considered. Here are some other things to consider. Cargo that you take but can't load sits in your warehouse where it just costs you money, so you should get that stuff going quickly. Cargo that sat in ships that are in the canal also costs you in fees, so you should probably get that going too. You start the game with just 2 ships, but at just about any time you can pay money and get up to 2 more, and you should definitely get those going. Completing contracts doesn't actually involve delivering anything anywhere, it just involves loading stuff onto your ships. Getting a ship across the Panama Canal lets you draw a bonus card, and these are things like extra ways to score points, or extra loading, or just extra movement. But the best cards are always at the top of the deck, and the further down you go, the less good the bonuses are, so you'd better get going on that. And of course, while transiting the canal with cargo pays your company money, it also pays you money as well. In fact, there's a number of ways that you can earn money. So obviously that's a lot to be thinking about, so let's give you even more to consider. How about shares? Everybody loves shares. Shares are great. You can buy shares in your company and any other company. All you need to do is take one of the game's executive action dice, which sit at the very top of the collapsing columns. You have to exhaust the column first and then you get to pluck a die from the top of that. That allows you to buy shares or increase the value of shares. And the CEO with the highest value shares at the end of each round wins a prize, which is money in your pocket, so that's great. What could possibly go wrong? What could go wrong? What could go wrong is you've got to pay out those shares, because that's just company money that goes. It leaves your company to just goes to other people forever. Unless your company is so insolvent that you can't actually afford to pay out on shares, at which point you can't win the CEO award, but you also just won't bankrupt your company. So that's good. Now, all of that sounds very much like the business of being in business, which it is, but none of it is actually what I like most about Panamax. Let me tell you about the 2 things that I like the most in this game. The first thing that I really like, and I really like this, is the shunting, which is, shunting is a word you might associate with trains, but no, let me explain. It's the Panama Canal. Space is at a premium, gets a bit tight in here. Sometimes you might be tootling along in your ship, and you come up to a lock and the lock's full because there's a lot of spaces on the board that can only contain up to 4 cargo slots of ship in whatever combination of sizes. So what happens? Can you not go into the lock, or do you have some kind of a ship crash where you go, no, it's the Panama Canal, we've got to keep stuff moving, you know, we're in business here. What you do is you come up to the lock, and the ships that are in the lock, they just get nudged forward. You nudge them out, you go, oh yeah, and all those ships move. And if there are other ships maybe in the lock, you know, in front of it, because that could happen, couldn't it? Well, all these ships push all those ships out of that lock, and it's so satisfying. I don't know why I like this. It's stupid, I will admit it. It just happens all the time, all around the board. You're constantly getting big ships coming along, nudging small ships out of the way, or small ships pushing whole trains of big ships everywhere, and I really like it. I don't know why. And my second favourite thing about Panamax is, well, I may have omitted something. Maybe you're the black player and you've got this lovely black ship and you've got your lovely black cargo, and you might want to put your black cargo on your black ship. But who said that you have to do that? Who says you have to put your cargo just on your own ship? So when you're moving ships about the canal, who says that you can only move your own? No, no, no. Look, this is capitalism. We're trying to make money. Why would we let rules like that get in our way? Maybe we can come to an agreement of some kind. In fact, when you take move actions, you must actually move ships as much as you can to completely fulfill the action, even if none of your own ships are eligible. So sometimes it's a good idea to think about moving neutral ships around as well. Things like these neutral military ships that dot the canal and kind of act like fibre in the colon of the capitalist process. Does that make sense? So you're all friends in Panamax because you've all got cargo on each other's ships that you're moving around for each other while you buy shares in each other's company and then pay out dividends to each other. Isn't capitalism just glorious? It's all about just making friends. And the thing is, this is where the real complexity of the game actually comes from, and it's kind of downplayed in the manual, and it's touched on occasionally. Maybe the designers didn't anticipate how much of a big deal it is in the game, but for me, when I play it, making deals with people is a fairly significant factor. Panamax is kind of the ultimate laissez-faire board game, really. It's a game where you can do something, providing you can make the deal to make that thing happen. That's business. Also, business is panic buying a massive ship so that you can't afford to pay out dividends to other players and go bankrupt, or just to avoid paying out dividends to someone who's your rival. I mean, that's the definition of capitalism too, just petty, stupid stuff like that. It's big businesses. I haven't been this excited by a game this complicated in a long time. I should be bouncing off Panamax. I should be saying there's too much going on, it's a bit too complicated for someone like me. In my old age, I'm confused. And yet I'm absorbed. And it has problems. As I've said, I think the manual is too complicated. And I think it kind of gives you an information bomb early on because setup's a bit fiddly as well. And I also think turn order can sometimes be a bit too much of a big deal, and also getting in the lead at the start of the game, you know, picking up the best bonus cards first can cause you to further run away. But that's why it's a game of negotiation, a game where you should be talking to the other players about what they're doing, about what's happening. Caveat, another caveat, play it with 4 players. That's the thing, okay? Play Panamax with 4 players. Make an evening out of it. It would be about 2 hours worth of play, because you need to have that interplay around the table. You need to have that interaction. Also, other caveat, the coins. The quality of a lot of the stuff in the box is very nice, and it's a lovely colourful game, but just the coins look like you've broken into like your kid's nursery and raided their tiddlywinks or something. They're rubbish, and they stand out as being so kind of oddly crap compared to everything else. And I guess you can't really see the ships when you put cargo on them, which is sad, because I like moving all the ships and cargo around, and all those dice actually just obscure what you're looking at. And it's really easy to knock the dice off as well. It's quite easy to move ships around and accidentally. You know what, these things are so petty. And it's such a colourful game as well, and I really like that. It has its lovely colourful map of the Panama Canal, and you put your different coloured ships on it, and then they all have their different coloured cargoes that you load, and then they nudge each other around the map like puppies in a fun tunnel. But that fun's over quicker than you think, because only being 3 rounds long, Panamax is, with different design decisions, it could have become bloated or too slow, but it's like a good business. It's quite an efficient game. It moves quickly, and it forces you to make important decisions quite fast. So Shut Up and Sit Down recommends Panamax. Don't be intimidated by the apparent complexity of the game or the pain in the neck that is the manual. Take your time. Ease yourself in, settle down, get comfy, enjoy the voyage, enjoy the cruise, and enjoy getting rich, even if it's at the expense of your company and all of your employees. After all, Panamax is a game about capitalism. It's a game about big ships and about being a big ship. Okay, over here.